Before we take a few questions, you guys know how much I appreciate our staff, and the draft is a team effort, as everyone knows, and it takes a lot of people to make it happen. And at first I want to thank Nathaniel and his coaches. I know I thanked him last time, but there's so much work that goes into a draft, and the scouts and the coaches and these guys. Most of the coaches are new and they're coming in, and they really put a lot of effort into it. And then just being with them this weekend and having them come in the draft room and seeing the looks in their faces, and we got to draft the player they wanted, and a lot of high fives, a lot of hugs. He likes to hug.
A lot of hugs.
It was a lot of fun, so I can't thank them enough. I want to thank our assistant GM, Darren Muji, who just does a really good, incredible job of leading our scouts, and Brian Stark, our director of college scouting. Both tremendous leaders, great way of managing people and our scouts, and we were very prepared as I've ever been for a draft, despite picking 64. It kind of fell exactly how we thought it would. Someone I don't talk about enough is Kelly Klein. She's really the glue that keeps us all together. The details, all the little things. She keeps me in check, keeps all the scouts in check, and I mean, she knows football. I mean, she knows the building. Like I said, she's the glue that keeps everything together. Any success we have, I mentioned, is all because of the college scouts. They're the unsung heroes of this draft. They're the ones who deserve all the credit, and I've spoken about them before. I just want to mention them individually, starting with Roman Pfeiffer, Nick Shirelli, Seiwan Joe, Eugene Armstrong. Big day for Eugene. We drafted a couple of his players, Dave Bratton, Brian Chesson, Scotty DiStefano, and it's his 41st draft, if you can believe that. Wow. Nate's 42 years old, so Scotty, if you're listening, you're old. Robbie Payton and Dion Randall, and these guys, like I said, this is their Super Bowl, and I just can't thank them enough. And like I said the last time I was up there, I've never been around a better group of scouts. Just the collaboration they have together, and they all get along. They're all, they're detailed. So I just can't thank them enough. I want to thank Roya Burton, who played a key role in our draft prep. Just all the background that she did with the social media. So I can't thank her enough. And then the pro scouts, AJ Durso, Patrick Walsh, Jordan Dizon. Not only free agency, but they do a lot of work with the draft. They did a lot of work with the trades this weekend. And then we just finished college free agency, and those guys are on the phones, as well as our college scouts and coaches. So can't thank those guys. And then we have two really good personnel interns, and those guys, they don't get any credit, and they work harder than anyone in the building. And that's Chaz McKenzie and Ish Sese. And both of them have really bright futures as scouts. It's always important to gain an edge. All the teams are really smart and really good at what they do. But analytics is the way we try to gain an edge. And Tony Lazaro, Carl Schreiner, Scott Flaska, Richard Hillebrand, Ethan Collins, Kanal Singh, Mehmet Erden. I mean, these guys really help us out. There's not a player we discuss, even during the draft this week, and I'll ask them, what's the athletic score of such and such? What's our analytic grade? What's our total score on this player? So these guys have a vital role in what we do. In the football ops department, Richard Hurtado, he's the one who does all the contracts, free agency. He's over there now working on contracts. He really helped me a lot with the trades throughout the weekend. His assistant is Robert Simpson. He's really bright, brilliant, who really helps with all the contracts as well. Mark Thews with the logistics and compliance, getting a hold of the guys when we draft them. Mark does all the jobs that no one wants throughout the building. I can't thank him enough. He's really happy COVID's over, so we hope it's over. But and then Raymond Jackson, I mentioned him last time, and just Ray, another glue guy within the building. Right now he's on a Zoom with all our draft picks, and that's just Ray. Ray's on it, very detailed. And then our medical side, I mentioned Vince Garcia, and then our sports science consultant, Robbie Sicca, both these guys are invaluable resources to us in evaluating these players and their medicals. And every player we're about to draft, we're asking them, even though we already know. And these guys do an incredible job. I mentioned Chip Conway probably every press conference, so I'm going to mention him one more time. Russ Trainer and Rick Seifert. I want to thank them in our IT department. John Elway sat by me throughout the draft. Every pick we're about to make, it's just comforting to have John there and ask him. He's been through this so many times. Again, he's a tremendous sounding board for me. And then I think finally, I want to recognize someone who doesn't get enough credit. She's been doing this for 3 decades, and she just works behind the scenes. She doesn't get any credit, but she works day and night. And she keeps everything on track with our logistics and our itineraries, and that's Pam Papsdorf. And doesn't matter what time of night you call her, midnight, players call her all the time. This is her 36th draft, not quite Scotty DeStefano, but 36 drafts, incredible. And she's all about the team. She's all about helping out. So again, it's a wonderful group we have. I feel good about our draft. And with that, Nate and I will take your questions.
Hey, George.
Hey, Ryan. How you doing?
Now that free agency's done, trades done, drafts done, big picture, how much better is this football team at several different positions? And can you contend in the division?
Yeah, Ryan, it's yet to be seen. We haven't, we got to get these players here. They got to get to work. And I do feel like we've helped our football team. We've helped our depth. And but it's we got to get them here, and they got to practice. They got to learn our culture, and they got to get with the coaches. But I do feel like we are a better football team, and we'll see how good come the fall.
One for each of you guys. George, for you, how big of an emphasis was special teams today? Adding Washington there, some of the later guys, and then Coach with Nick Benito, is there any possibility Baron Browning goes back inside, or do you foresee him staying outside? How's he kind of looked here through the first few days?
Special teams is a big emphasis the second day, starting with Mathis, and then you work down to Turner Yell. I mean, Turner Yell's going to be a really good special teamer. And then Washington, we feel he can be a dual returner for us. He's explosive. I mean, you watch, just watch him against Florida. You see how explosive he is. So it was a major emphasis. I applaud Dwayne Stukes, for the work that he and Mike Mallory put into it, their evaluations. And, I think he's happy. I think they're both happy today because I do think we improved our special teams.
Yeah, I think Baron, he did a great job at outside backer this past camp, and I think he's going to grow there, and I think you can never have enough people to rush the passer. We talk a lot. It's how the quarterback plays, and it's how you affect the quarterback from a defense perspective. So we want to find as many rushers as we possibly can. We want a great competition in that room, and we feel like we're going to be able to get after some of these quarterbacks in this division.
George, how much impact did seeing Demar Mathis? You guys were out there for the North Carolina game. When you see a player live get to kind of be up close in a game environment, how much sway does that have?
It does. It gives you a different perspective. And, just seeing them in warm-up, seeing their body type, seeing how they, once they get beat, how do they react? And just really liked everything about him in that game. And then when you study the tape, he has all the tools to be a very good corner in this league. He needs to clean up some technique. He had too many penalties. But I think everything, all his flaws are correctable. This guy's really, really talented.
George, just to your right, when I think you have 3 non-combine players in the class, how do you sort of replace that part of the evaluation?
Yeah, I mean, our scouts, they get into schools, they get all the background. Our medical people get the medical information. Maybe we brought, some of them in. I can't remember who our non-combine guys are, but due diligence. We rely on our scouts. We rely on our analytics. We rely on our coaches doing the evaluations, and so we felt really good about all our picks.
Montrell Washington, we got to talk to him, and he said that he wasn't actually expecting to get drafted. What did you see in him, especially as a return guy, and also just what he can maybe contribute in other areas on the field?
Yeah, we think. Yeah, is that for me or Coach Hackett? Yeah, we just thought he had some dynamic traits as a returner, and then as a receiver as well, as a slot receiver. He's really good with the ball in his hands. He has incredible ball skills, And as a punt returner and as a kick returner, Coach Stukes thought he would be our guy. We'll see. He has to go earn it. But he has some dynamic traits that you can't teach. And we feel he'll upgrade us there.
Yeah, I think talking about kind of what George said is, to be back there and catch those punts, catch those kickoffs, have all those guys running down to you. I mean, it's a very unique talent. It's hard to find guys like that. So I think that's something that, having experience in special teams in my past and knowing Coach Stukes, I think that was just so critical for our team to find somebody that can bring that. And, he is going to have to earn that. And when it comes from the wide receiver standpoint, I mean, we've got some good wide receivers on this team, and I'm excited for him to get in that room and compete. I mean, that's all you ever ask for all these rooms, all these guys that are joining us now is, they got to earn everything. And we feel like we got guys that are going to go in there and fight for some roles.
George, on the two picks at the end, Henningsen and Hicks, they're both Wisconsin guys. They also both had some big numbers at the pro days. So in your evaluation, when you have guys like that kind of jump off with some numbers, do you go back and rewatch them a little bit to see, okay, maybe did we miss something, or did this guy open some eyes based on measurables?
Those guys we like going into the workout, and then the measurables, at the workout just kind of confirmed what we thought. They're just good football players. The numbers just kind of, they'll sway it a little bit, but these guys are our type of guys. We call them gifts, and I've mentioned that before, but really good off the field, incredible on the field, incredible football character on the field. And so we feel like they're really going to fit in our locker room and help us.
I just wanted the cheese curds on the spotted cow,
He did.
For Wisconsin, come from Green Bay, so.
Do you have a hookup that
No, we just, Wisconsin kids, they do great, so.
Yeah, George, didn't wind up with an offensive tackle or inside linebacker? Was it, you had some guys and they just got away from you, or you kind of like what you got?
No, Mike, I mean, we had a number of, we wanted to add depth at a number of positions. It just didn't fall at those two positions. It fell at 9 others. But, you can't fill them all. We had 9 picks is what we finished with. But we like the players we have. Like I said, we feel like we helped our depth. I like where we're going with the college free agency. I think we'll help ourselves there, our scouts, and they're still working on it with the coaches. But I think it's going to be a really good group, with the CFAs.
I have two, but first, George, for you, is Scott Stefano's voice louder on day 3? It seems like a bunch of his guys.
He is not. He's not very loud, but he is persuasive. He does a heck of a job. I mean, more experience obviously than anyone. But Eugene Armstrong, I think, had 2, and he's not very loud either. Yeah, he's loud enough, so the scouts are pretty quiet.
Well, then kind of for both of you, do you know that the Turner Yell kid is Benito's best friend, and then you get the 2 Wisconsin kids. So I guess for both of you, Coach, how much does it help when you have guys that come in with that relationship?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always great. I mean, guys that have been on the same team together, they've gone through it together. They know, what they're capable of. I think that's something you're always excited about. In the end, it's about being a good player, though. And I think that it just happened. It fell that way, and that's just kind of added bonus.
Did you know their best friend?
Well, I knew they were close. Nick was in our draft room 2 picks before we're about to pick. And I said, hey, tell me about your teammate. And he's like, what? You're going to, so he loves them. And I knew they were really close.
He was fired up. Yeah,
He's
great.
pretty jacked.
For both of you, George, where do you see, I want to make sure I pronounce it, who was Enrique? I guess, go back, Any?
Yes.
Where do you see him? Is he in? Is he an outside guy or is he a bigger guy? Where do you see him?
Yeah, I'll let the coaches, I'll let Nate talk. I think he's, the 4-eye position, the DM position, we weren't good enough in the run, stopping the run last year. So we wanted to get a little more size up front. And he, along with Matt, we feel can help in that area, help our depth up front, where we can stop the run when we need to. Last year we couldn't, in 4 minutes. So maybe Nate can elaborate where you guys.
Yeah, I mean, you got to stop the run in this league, especially when it counts in those situations like 4 minute. And, to have a big body like that, I mean, a guy that can just, take one guy and push him all the way back in the backfield is something as an offensive guy you're always nervous about. So I think that, kind of from that standpoint, probably starting there, but the ability to have flex to go to all 3. You want everybody to be able to play all 3 positions on the inside as much as possible, and he's a guy that we think can do that.
And you guys added that, but inside, on the D-line, and you added a O-lineman late there. How important is it that you create competition? You've told me, you're not afraid to make
respect you and trust you, but is it this next step for this team, making it harder to make the roster and creating more competition?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what being a pro is all about. I mean, this league's about competition. I mean, from coaches to players to everything. We're always trying to generate competition as much as possible because that brings the best out of everybody. You also get to find out about guys, how they respond, how they react. I mean, anytime you're dealing with any football player, you know, there's always going to be some kind of adversity. And the idea is to, you know, start it as early as you possibly can and see who battles it out and who comes out on top. So I think the more competition you can create, the better the whole team will be.
I've got two first ones for George. George, you picked up one pick for next year. Is that how you envision this weekend going? And what's it like now looking to next year with only having 5 picks when you typically like to have 10?
We wanted to pick up picks for next year. I didn't know how it would go. You know, I'm happy we got a third. Would have liked to maybe get a few more, but it just didn't work out. We were working the phones, and once you get past the 4th round, it's hard, you know, to get much value. And so we're happy with the third. We have 5 next year. We'll have a lot more than that, I guarantee it, by the time the draft comes around.
And then, Coach, my question for you, you finished your first draft as an NFL head coach. What was it like? Was it what you were expecting and from all the emotion?
You know, I think you go in with kind of an idea of what it might be, but you know, kind of talking about yesterday, I mean, it was unbelievable. You know, George gave so much credit to so many people, but I mean, everything runs through him, and watching him lead the whole group, lead the whole room, and really make it a collaborative effort was just awesome to see. It's something that, you know, I want to keep doing myself with our coaches, and watching how he truly listened to every single person, and there was no conflict. It was just all about what's right for the team in the end. I mean, it was unbelievable to be a part of, and just the different trades that could have happened, might have happened, did happen. I mean, that was kind of the thing that was the most exciting. I mean, and it's funny because you're sitting there waiting and that clock's going down continually, but you know, it's way more intense than I had anticipated, but it was great. It was awesome to be part of. It was awesome to be just there for anything that I could do to help George, and I think we came out with a really good class.
Hey, Nate, 2 for you. You traded up for the center from Washington. What did you like about his tape, and where do you think he'll learn first?
Yeah, so I think he's one of those guys. I mean, you always want to have flex on the inside. I think his ability to play center is huge. You know, you always want to have a lot of centers on your team anytime you go into a season. So I think that's huge. And then his ability to play guard, if we need it to, definitely helps. And you know, just his ability to run off the ball is something that we really liked, and we were really lucky to get him. We had to trade up to get him, and we were all very excited.
And secondly, you had your 3-day minicamp earlier this week. What was your takeaway from the offense and what their recall was and how they were learning?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you start going for the first time, I mean, it's the first time we break a huddle. It's the first time you get up there and operate in anything. So we got a long way to go, that's for sure. But, you know, to kind of get the foundation in and let the guys start learning those basic plays that we want to be great at, I think was really, really positive. And for those guys to understand kind of our mentality as coaches, how we go out there, how we coach, how the practices are going to be, those are all such great positive things. So they know once we get back here on Monday into the OTAs, kind of what they're expected to do out on that field, I think is so important. And you want to make sure they're enjoying themselves and enjoying practice, but getting better and competing at all times.
George, I'm curious what the biggest differences for you were from year 1 and year 2 for this process here with Broncos, and did anything in this draft significantly surprise you, either for you guys or the draft in general?
You know, the only thing that may have been different is, you know, I was a little more comfortable this year. I've been here, you know, I knew the ins and outs, knew the scouts much better. I knew all their strengths. So I was just more comfortable with everything, the settings, the board, the building. You know, I probably didn't know everyone's names last year when I was running the draft. So I was just much more comfortable. So it was, you know, last year was a really good process. I thought this year it was a little better. And then I can't remember what you.
Just in general, with
Oh, yeah. It's so hard to say what the surprises were. I mean, every year is different, you know. So I'm hard to, you know, probably surprised the quarterbacks fell as far as they did. That was a little surprising.
Did you guys think about quarterback, like the draft, as some sort of developmental thing?
Yeah, we looked at everything. There were some quarterbacks. Really, one in particular that was interesting, but you know, it just didn't work out.
George, last year you drafted Pat Surtain his dad, Jeff Paton, dating back to Miami days. You draft Nick this week, having known Jason Taylor and his work with him, and we talked last night about the connection with Jim Bonds and Greg Dulcich. Do you ever marvel at the way kind of connections in this game come full circle? Or does it just make you feel like you've been in it a long time?
Probably makes me feel like I've been in it a long time. When I used to work when Patrick Surtain's dad was a player, when I was working, it makes me feel pretty old. Jason Taylor was a player, and now he's coaching players I'm drafting. So maybe I'm just getting old. I don't know. I still feel pretty young, but a lot of coincidence there. But when you're in it a long time, it's a lot of connections in this business, and so it's pretty cool actually. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, Coach Hackett, you've been with several teams. How would you describe anything about the Broncos process and the draft process that struck you, that made it unique?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I think the collaboration. I think it was unbelievable. Just the discussions that just everybody had, from the coaches to the scouts to George. I think that was probably the most impressive thing about it. And, I think everybody kind of knew where we were going and where we might draft. And there weren't a lot of surprises as we got closer to our pick. So, that was something that as a coach you appreciate so much to be able to be part of that and understand where we're going and where we're moving forward.
George, to your right here, do you know how many undrafted you'll sign?
I think we have 10 locked up right now. I'm not sure how much, not much more than that. I think we're pretty close, but right, 10, 11, I think right around there, give or take.
And the second question is just kind of a general draft question, but Georgia set the record with 15 guys in a 7-round draft. Just your feeling and evaluating that team through this process.
I think that defense a lot of teams in the NFL would trade their defense for that defense. I'm joking, but I don't know if I've ever seen a defense as talented as that defense, and that's a tribute to Kirby Smart and his staff. And I worked with Kirby for a year with the Dolphins, and I'm not surprised. Just his energy and everything he brings to the table and his leadership. But it's amazing to watch all the size and the speed of that defense, and there's a reason they won the national championship.
And you didn't take any of them.
We did not. I'm probably the dumb one, but yeah, it's no, it just didn't work out.
George, you know the guys in your staff, and there were guys and girls better a year later, but kind of the biggest change is Nathaniel sitting next to you. What did he bring, and what was it like having him there, whether it's for comedic relief, like you mentioned last night, or just to take us through having him?
No, Nate, he's got a brilliant football mind. So I love to get a coach's perspective and his perspective. He's been in football his whole life, with his dad and then coaching. And so just, we've already had a lot of these conversations, going through the whole process. But you just, you just want to feel sure about a pick. So you're always talking. And when you have a few players at different positions, what do you think here? What would really help our football team? Those are the conversations we had all 3 days. And so, just to, rely on him and just a sounding board, it was great. He's a great collaborator, as are his coaches. So it was really easy. It was really seamless, and it was fun at the same time. And I think we had a good draft.
Final three, George, then Anthony, then Troy.
Yeah, George, I've noticed now in the last 2 drafts when we get on these conference calls with these guys, a good majority of them are pretty impressive interviews. Last year, you think about Jonathan Cooper, this year Matt Henningsen, and he's an engineer guy. How much does off the field play? We don't see a lot of character flaws popping up in a lot of these guys that you're drafting, and what goes into those interviews that you kind of find those guys?
Yeah, it's a priority to bring high character players into our building, and high character in the locker room and in the community, and it's a work of our scouts. Like I said earlier, just getting to really know these players with all their sources. It's our coaches interviewing them at the combine and all the hundreds of Zoom calls our coaches have, and so just getting to know them as best you can in 6 to 8 months. You're trying to, you got to make a $1 million decision on someone, and that's hard, and you still get it wrong every now and then. So it's just a priority for us, and it will continue to be. And no one hits 100%, but we're going to try.
Anthony Rodriguez, KOA Radio, and this is for both of you, kind of piggybacking off of that. How big of a role did that play in your room and really throughout this entire process about getting the highest character guys, especially with building the culture of a first-year head coach, knowing they want to be at Bronco? How much of a role did that play for you guys this year?
Yeah, it's funny, growing up in this business, my father used to tell me that Tom Landry used to always say, character wins championships. I think that was something that was always kind of stuck with me throughout my entire career, is you look at all the guys that I've been lucky enough to coach, and the ones that I feel has always been the most successful are those guys that have that great character and are great people off the field and in the locker room. So I think it's funny, like looking back at all the different reports, everything that we read, and it's, you can hear from my perspective as the scouts talk about them, because they spend all that time and work so hard to get to know them, and then you hear them talk about them and it kind of comes alive, because I didn't get to spend that much time with them, but you hear what they say and you get to feel that character come alive in your mind. And I think that's, as the board went up there, George would always take that at a very high price, and I think that's why a lot of the guys we drafted were those high character type caliber guys.
And we do background checks on all these guys. And Keith Bishop, I mentioned him last presser, but he does a lot of work. And so anyone who comes to this building, we have a background check, so it's really important.
Last one, it's more lighthearted. We saw it on the scouting report. A scout compared Henningsen to Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting, because it's intelligence that, George, did you lean on Nathaniel for the movie reference?
I'm not a movie guy, so you'd probably have to. I mean, I think I saw that movie.
Ever seen Good Will Hunting?
I don't know.
That's a great movie.
So it's not a great comparison?
He's a very intelligent man, and we're excited to have him. I mean, he's definitely smart. I mean, in that movie, they made him pretty smart, so we'll see as we get to know him.
So the guy's scouting report said he's Will Ferrell in Step Brothers. You're out.
I don't know. I like him too.